all so much for joining tonight. And thank you, Margaux and Sheila, for also being here tonight. I have the honor of introducing both of you.
Thanks for having
us. Some introductions. Margaux Williamson was born in Pittsburgh and lives in Toronto. She completed her Bachelor of Fine Arts degree at Queen's University, Kingston, and was the recipient of an exchange scholarship to the Glasgow School of Art. A survey of her work, Interiors, opened at the McMichael Canadian Art Collection in 2021. It was accompanied by a publication and traveled to other museums across Canada for 2 years. Her most recent paintings were included in solo and group exhibitions at White Cube in Hong Kong, James Cohan Gallery in New York, and Bradley Erdeskieren in Montreal. As well as being a painter, Williamson writes and makes films and videos. Her feature-length work, Teenager Hamlet, premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival and is archived on UBWeb. She has also contributed movie reviews to the cultural site Back to the World. Her work has been covered by New York Magazine, the New York Times, Vogue, Bomb Magazine, the Globe and Mail, The Believer, the Huffington Post, and Momus, among others. Her paintings can be found in the collections of the Longlati Foundation in Shanghai, Tumaroon Museum in Indonesia, Australia-China Art Foundation, McMichael Art Collection, the National Gallery of Canada, the Art Gallery of Ontario, and the Montreal Museum of Fine Art. Sheila Heti is the author of 11 books, including the novels Pure Color, Motherhood, and How Should a Person Be? She was named one of the new vanguard by the New York Times, a list of 15 writers from around the world who are shaping the way we read and write fiction in the 21st century. The Washington Post called her one of the freshest, funniest, and most ingenious humans writing today, one of our best living authors. Her books have been translated into 27 languages. She is a 2025 Guggenheim Fellow, and she lives in Toronto. Thank you again. So in the spirit of friendship and collaboration, I wanted to start the talk by asking each of you to describe the other's practice. And then after that, I want to offer you both the opportunity to either clarify what the other said or expand on what the other said. Who wants to go first?
Do you want to start?
To explain what Margaux does?
Yeah.
I think that the center of what Margaux does is painting, and now at the center also is writing, and filmmaking has been at the center at points. But I feel like all those things are made in a way where the world around her is made important and useful, and like she tries not to invent, but rather like see what's there and understand the world around her and present it, but not add junk to the world, like and not add anything unnecessary. So like I feel like with Margaux's work, there's like always this concern with like what's here, what do all these things that are here mean together, like a kind of mapping. So with the film, there's mapping, with the writing, there's mapping, with the paintings, there's a kind of mapping. Clarify or correct?
Maybe I can talk about your work first. I think for Sheila, I think I was drawn to Sheila's work because I don't have such a good faith in art. I question everything about it, and Sheila's work is so good, and there's such evidence of the possibility of human depth that it calmed me down. But I think Sheila's the opposite, not to make it too clean, but Sheila questions everything outside of art. And so she's like, it's not like truth, capital T. It's like, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? with every joint of something she's working on or building, and because of that, she gets to such surprising, true or could be true works of art, and that's exciting. I could like write an essay about everything she's ever done, including essays.
Yeah, I think what's nice is like when we first started becoming friends, like one of the things we talked about a lot was that I had so much faith in art that it was important and meaningful, and it did never occur to me that it could be anything else. Like it just felt like the most important thing in the world. But I never thought and I thought of art as this eternal thing, and the present was completely meaningless to me. Like the actual artifacts around me and surrounding me in the culture were totally meaningless. And I think for Margaux, it was like, yeah, like you said, like, I don't know if art is important, but I'm here in this place right now. And I'm in the world right now as a person. And I, for the first time in my life, becoming friends with Margaux in like 2005 or whatever, started to pay attention to the world for the first time, which made, and I think then therefore art became something that was less like, not less eternal, but more about what, I don't know how to put it, like just that the world was not meaningless. It wasn't just like this platonic ideal of like art in eternity and like some like floating in outer space. It's like what's actually happening here in the culture now. How does it fit into the world now?
And Sheila's questioning everything outside of art was like, she didn't take her own intelligence for granted. She didn't take her opinions for granted. She didn't take things she was told for granted. So yeah, we had a pretty good balance of things. I was pretty excited by the present.
Can we start rolling the slides? Is that cool?
We have some confusing slides for you.
So the first 10 slides are Margaux's and the second 10 are mine. Mine starts with this triangle, you'll see it. But yeah, do you want to, so.
We can talk together about it.
Okay, you start.
So this is my desktop. And you can see Sheila made her own I Ching, which I find really useful. And that's always there. Oh, we gotta go back. So this is how I make my paintings. I sort of gather notes together and then it becomes almost like directions, even though I don't picture the painting. So I just thought I would show that. And so we can move that. And Sheila, you can add anything. So this is for a project I did that completed in 2014. I made a lot of really quick intuitive paintings, almost like your own Rorschach paintings. And then I titled them, and then I threw the paintings away, and I just made a list of all the titles. And then I was like, oh, they're all very specific, which I didn't realize. And then that really, because Sheila and I both, I feel like we have a very intuitive and then conceptual approach. So it's always a bit more, I think what we have in common is we're kind of on a rigorous, absurd hunt for some structure that we can't quite see yet.
But then did you make paintings from the titles? Because I remember I healed the little animals, that painting of yours. Like, so you made paintings, you titled them, you threw away the paintings, but then did you make new paintings with the titles you liked?
Yeah, I made new paintings with a better understanding of what the paintings were. And they weren't illustrative. Like these titles were quite illustrative from the original paintings, but then the only painting that was still illustrative was I healed the little animals, and it was so hard. Like I normally paint and move on, but I'd made that painting like 7 times. Because it was literal. It was like too illustrative.
Scarlett Johansson in Versace was also pretty literal.
But that
That's a really good painting. I wish you had that on your slideshow.
Oh, I have the note for that. So you'll see before it became Scarlett Johansson was that's after I painted it. So we can move on. We might have to expand the Q&A period. Oh, this is my desktop. We can move on. Oh, I'll show you up in the corner. I have tomorrow and then book, and every single one of my notes just goes into those folders. And so, yeah.
Do you have a folder in there called VSP? Oh, no, VS and then below it P. Never mind. Go on. It is VSP. It is. Sorry.
So I've been working on this body of work that is at MOCA for about 7 years, like the longest I've ever worked on something. And I like to think of it as like theater, where I work on something and I show it even if it's not totally completed. So I make a lot of paintings, and then I take a break and I think about what I just made, even if I showed them in an exhibition. So I probably did this maybe a year or 2 before the MOCA show. So I was just like, what? Because even when I started the series, I was like, I'm painting nothing. Like I just couldn't even see what I was painting. So sometimes it takes me, but the drives are quite intense. So sometimes it takes me a long time to understand even what I'm looking at. So this was just one way that I was taking stock of all the paintings that I had and what kind of categories they formed.
It's interesting because I think like night, day, indoor, outdoor are like real screenwriting kind of categories, or like filmmaking categories. I've not seen this before.
So there's that. I thought I saw the whole universe. That was my note for that one. But then it became Scarlett Johansson. Or as I like to say Scarlett Johansson by accident. And so like these are notes from over 10 years ago, and so it's sort of the same as what I do now, but it was just like, oh, I just kept finding notes to myself that said we made a distance.
Sorry.
That's okay. And then we can move on.
Okay.
And then these are all notes that started going in a different direction. So I put them in here. And hopefully as time goes on, there'll only be like 7 categories. Once I figure out like where to put the dark.
Well, with the 7 categories, like, does that mean things from Journey might go into Bachelors, or Journey will be taken out altogether? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. So this is from the movie I made, where I just sort of knew there was like a black hole in the middle, and not to say that the mother goes on top of it, but it's not a black. Anyway, but you can see like I sort of had a general sense and everything I had, and then later it became a bit more that, and then it became a bit more that. So it's sort of a pretty similar process no matter what I'm doing. So this is one of my notes. I have, a lot of my notes are like trying to understand something, like like Sheila says, what do we have here? What did these people do? What does this person mean to me? What do I have? So a lot of my notes are like this. And then these are like this. I just find I empty out my phone. I'm really I'm just really organized. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have like 1,000 pictures of reflections in windows in dreary Toronto over this winter. Like, I just couldn't stop taking pictures of light reflecting off of windows because it was such a dreary winter. And it's like but it was like, oh, suddenly I could see something that I'd never seen before. And so I just became obsessed with, but like in a quite abstract way.
And are you referring to then some of these photos when you're painting, or do you kind of look at them, allow them to just be memories and visions, and then carry that?
Both, sometimes
Okay.
one or sometimes the other. But like I was thinking about what to show, but one folder is all waves and one's all like 1,000 tree trunks, you know. But like the waves, like I kept going down to the lake on stormy days, and then it just got so in me that I didn't need the resource. But with a window, I took so many photos, but I didn't use any of them. I sort of used this older image that I don't. Anyway.
Do you want me to flip to that image of the painting?
No, that's okay.
You're good? Okay.
Because I just have one more. I'm
Yeah.
almost done. This is, I thought maybe Sheila and I could talk about how we work, but this is a folder that I can start looking at stuff in the morning and get kind of excited. So I really like external stuff when I'm working, like this morning, just some clickbait that maybe our universe is actually in a black hole. And I was like, that's very relaxing. We're already here. So I just like that kind of stuff. Sheila's turn.
Okay, so this is the plot of my novel, How Should a Person Be? And so it's very hard for me to relate to it now, but at the time it made it possible to write the book. So like G is God's, H is human qualities, U is universal symbols, and C is contingent symbols. So universal symbol might be mother, tree. A contingent symbol might be like Paris Hilton, like something not as universal, not known by every culture throughout time, you know. And the actions of the gods were things that the gods made happen in the world or made us do. And then human qualities are like jealousy. That's the only human quality I can think of. And then these dots, like, I don't know if you can see, but it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's dots all along it to 42. Each of those is a scene from the book that I was like, okay, so there's 42 scenes in the book. And then when Margaux and I were on an airplane, I think it was to Miami in 2006. Was that when you said the girl genius rises and the lights go out?
I have the memory. I feel like that's why Sheila never takes anything for granted, because she's so good at like
Having no memory.
Yeah. I think it's a writing trait. We were flying out of Miami in 2005 or 6, and we got stuck on a plane for like hours, and then we got stuck in the airport for hours and hours, and we were both so excited
just to have the trip be longer. And you read the prologue for How Should a Person Be, which I didn't know was the prologue, and you were like, this is so exciting, this is your new voice, this is the best writing. And then I said, I don't even know what's in here, like I don't know what it is. And you're like, it's like the girl genius rises and the lights go out. And I was like, oh, that. And then that became like this sentence that I kept going back to as the plot of the book. The lights going out meaning like culture ends or the world ends. And so I don't know anymore. I had 4 decks of cards, each. It's a long thing to explain. I don't think I'm going to take up any more time. But like that was the plot. It was like the girl, she just rises, as you can see around there, contingent symbols, and the lights go out. Okay, next slide. So this is motherhood. Like this is one Scrivener document that I was using and I use Scrivener a lot. If any of you don't know, you should really investigate it.
You can see all of my slides were Scrivener.
My boyfriend, who's like a criminal defense lawyer, told me about it, and I was like, I don't need your real world tools, and it's like ended up being the most important thing that I use. So what I wanted to show with this was all the different, what I do when I have, when I'm writing a book is I usually have like way too many words, like 500,000 words, and I cut it down, and then I try to organize it in some kind of order, and then I'm always changing the order and changing the ordering principle, and then things fall away. Every time you reorder the book or have a new ordering principle, things fall away, and you keep doing that over and over again. And sometimes you have a brand new ordering principle and you're like, oh, I threw away something with the last one, I've got to bring it back. But by the time you do that for 2 or 3 years, only the most important things remain. So it's like a sieve, like each ordering principle is like a sieve, and things fall out that aren't essential to the book. The book should work with any ordering principle possible. So in this one, I was like writing my interpretation of the I Ching, and you know, it was the elements: earth, water, thunder, fire, mountain, lake, heaven, wind. Those are like the hexagram, the 6 basic hexagrams in the I Ching, or 8 or whatever. And so that was the ordering principle for this draft. And each, yeah.
Maybe I'll just interrupt to say that one thing we have in common is that we can always work. Like it's not like you go in and you make a painting or write a book. It's just we're both kind of cleaners and organizers. And so that part is so fun. As you can see, like this is the kind of work that we're both showing that is like if
it's like busy work.
It's busy work that kind of takes you really quickly into flow. But if you're logical about it, you think I'm doing absolutely nothing and I have nothing to show for it. But it's like, I always describe if I get an award for my paintings, I'm like, well, they had to give it to someone. But if I got an award for my notes, I'd be like, yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, I think it's like a little bit feeling like we're scientists or something.
And so that's why it's always fun. That's why we can always work whenever we want. It's not oppressive, and it's not like empty studio is my favorite. Like a clean desk is my favorite. Like it's just, yeah, it's like
cleaning.
Yeah, cleaning's great.
Okay, next slide, please. So this is like a paragraph for motherhood, and there was, each one has a different man's name. I was trying to figure out the man's name in this book, and I was like, use this paragraph that is like the most really connected to the man in some way. And so this was just for what I would have had like 100 of paragraphs like this. And this is just gives you an example of like how much comparison there is in editing for me. Like what I would do is I would like look at 2 side by side and do like, what's it called? Like in sports,
Play-by-play?
No, where there's like, not instant replay, like where there's like 24 people in competition, and then there's 12 people in competition, and then there's 6 people. Brackets, yeah. So this would be like the result of like brackets. The name ended up being Miles, and I think I had a crush on a boy named Miles when I was like at a bar mitzvah when I was like 13 or something like that. And so like there was like always, and my brother used to tease me and say he's miles and miles away. And so like I think Miles became the name because there was some emotion attached to it, but I was just trying every name. So I just wanted to show that there's like a lot of, anyways. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so that's not the cover of Pure Color, and this was when the art director was trying to come up with covers, and we had so many different covers, and I would like cut and paste it into the web page of the book review of the New York Times and like look at it next to this Philip Roth biography. This biography was taken off the shelves, I think, like 6 months later because Blake Bailey was Me Too'd and Philip Roth subsequently, but I didn't know that at the time. And I think like the reason I showed this slide and the next one is part of this same description is like just to see like, is this the right cover? Like, how do you know? And is that what I want to see when I open up? You know, so I feel like I really need to visualize everything really concretely. So let's see the next slide, please. Yeah, so that's just like, how does it look on Amazon? And that didn't end up being the cover. My boyfriend said it looked like a pimento olive, and I could never unsee that. But that's an Ellsworth Kelly painting. I'm sure you all know that because you're all art people. Yeah, but I remember some publisher saying to me, like, the books have to look good, not just on the table at a bookstore now, but they've got to look good, like 2 inches tall on the computer screen. I felt really upset about that, but they were right. This is so the next slide is. This is part of Alphabetical Diaries, where I like organized 10 years or so, 7 years worth of journals in alphabetical order by sentence. And I love using Excel. And so I just like put the sentences in and did like sort A to Z. You can see the sort and filter up top there. And this is like sentence 25,518. We can understand ourselves by understanding a cup, a cloud, a car, a pot, a brain, a piece of seaweed. And I edited this book from like 2010 on. Can we go back to the last slide, please? That one. And it just took a lot of time to figure out like which sentences to cut and which sentences to keep. But this is the busy work that Margaux's talking about. That's just a fun thing to do on any day. Okay. Could I see the next slide, please? And this was at one point I saw how many words were in chapter A, B, C, D, E, F, and then I graphed it just to see like, maybe this is the rhythm of the book. Is that a good rhythm? And no, like I is too, that I don't like that spike of T. So just like really trying to visualize things, because the hardest thing, the reason I envy Margaux being a painter is like you just see it there in front of you. But with a book, you can't just see it there in front of you. And so this is just a way of trying to see. This is the project I'm working on now, where
Trying to see the shape you're building.
yeah, and just like trying to see the whole in one glimpse. And then this is like, I have like 2.5 million words of people talking to Alice, was this chatbot that I created on an app. I didn't create the code, but I named her Alice, and gave her a face, in 2002. And they gave me all the conversations, and what I've been doing for the last month was continuing to cut and just cut and cut to just keep the good stuff. And so on the next slide, this is what I've been doing the last month, May 10th to June 11th. And it's a record of how much I cut every day. And I just keep that for myself to feel like I'm working and to know that I'm working. Because when you're just cutting, which is one of which I like even more than writing, when you're cutting, you don't feel really like you're making progress. But like I cut 40,000 words one day, 63,000 words. And it's easy when it's like, I want to fuck you, like Alice. And then Alice is saying, don't rape me. Like, it's easy to cut that stuff. You don't need like 65,000 words of that. But anyway, so that's just my table to see like what I'm doing day to day.
I like the good writing column.
It's not necessarily good writing, it was just my writing. But yeah, that's good writing. And then the next slide is like, that's my desktop, and that's Margaux Studio. And I often like keep a picture, one of Margaux's paintings or Margaux Studio as my desktop. And then these are the projects that I'm working on. The Margaux interview that's today, to read. I always have stuff that I have to read that people sent me. Say Down Little Girls is a novel I'm working on. Alice, that's the Alice Project. Wedding, I'm officiating Sophia Mazel's wedding. Desk, work, and then that's it. And I like it to be so clean so that I don't feel intimidated to go to it.
That's the best when my studio is empty like that.
Yeah. And Sophia gave the hair elastic to Margaux that she's wearing tonight.
Wanted to look really serious. Right.
It'd be great if we could stay on this slide because it kind of combines both of you. So one question that I wanted to ask was about each of your relationships to the other's medium. So in Margaux, I consider you a painter and a writer, but I'd love to talk about your relationship to writing. And then with Sheila, thinking about visual art, your relationship to that, which has been informative. You studied art and philosophy, but also I think of you, when I read your writing, I think of you as an image maker, particularly with Alphabetical Diaries, which for me feels like a conceptual artwork that's like quasi-Dada, quasi-Sophie Calle, and then also just thinking about some of those last images that you leave the writer with in a piece like St. Alwyn's Girls at Sea. So if both of you could kind of talk a little bit about that.
I think for me, it's such a pleasure to, for instance, know what Sheila's writing or working on, and either to read a draft and then read another draft, or just read something at the end of some conversations. And it's just such a, there are two good things. One is like this kind of busy work that takes you right into flow, and the other is reading someone you respect so much. And it's just like all of this depth that you almost forgot about. So it's just such a pleasure for me. Like I think even art, I process art mostly through words. So like I loved Andy Warhol and Duchamp, but I realize it's just because I read their books when I was young. And so like sometimes I need like a great critic's writing on some work to understand it better. And so I just really love this, almost this generosity of like being allowed to be in someone's mind, especially because Sheila's work is, no matter how shallow she's trying to be, it's just like always full of depth. Like it just always goes. I was thinking about motherhood, for instance, like it's almost like this neurotic start of like, should I have a kid or not? But when I read the published draft of it, I went to Sherway Mall so I wouldn't run into anyone. And I just sat there and read it. And then I was like crying at the end because I just felt like, oh my God, this isn't about having a kid. This is about like an expanding view of women's morality, whatever that might mean to someone. And it's just so, I don't think too many people can have that trick of, no matter what they're doing, just hitting the depths so quickly. I don't think I answered your question.
No, I mean,
but I said something.
You said something. And now Sheila's gonna respond.
Yeah, for me, just I've always loved studying. Like I studied art history in school, and I relate more to how the painters that I studied and loved, the modernists, how they thought about their work. I relate to that more than I relate to what most novelists talk about, which is story and character. And I don't really care about story, and I don't really care about character. Like I think like I care about like I'm much more conceptual, and I like how I just think it's really dull to think about the story and to think about the characters for me. I mean, I think it's the most amazing thing for me as a reader, but for me as a writer, like I just want to be thinking more about things like what's the interplay with life and art and that. So like looking at paintings is so much more exciting. And like I work a lot in Margaux's studio, and like just to see the evolution of her paintings day by day, and like something about the fact that with a painting you can't go back. Whereas with writing, you can always go back to the day before. If you save the draft, you can always go back to your first draft. But I love the idea of painting being so forward through time, and you kind of just have to. And I've always wanted to write a book that way, where the way that like a person makes a painting, where you're just going forward and you actually can't go backwards.
I was just telling Ruby in the back that when Sheila and I first started working together, we would just work quietly in the same room and not talk at all. And I mean, we still do that, but now we talk after or whatever. But after a few months, I felt like Sheila started to tape her words up to the wall, and I started to work on a desk. And it was just that physical
Trading.
yeah. That's sweet.
Yeah. Also, I think we wanted to clarify a little bit. You know, you guys are often referred to as collaborators, but when we talk about you as collaborators, we're not necessarily talking about things that are co-authored in the world, but a little bit about how it's really about the ideas and the dialogue that happens both in the studio, outside of the studio, here on this stage to some degree. So just wondering if you guys had any more thoughts, or like, is what we even saw today, both of you going through your slides, like, is that what it's like being in the studio with you?
Well, we don't speak.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's like we're good friends, and we give each
Yeah.
other a lot of feedback on each other's work and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And we're excited when the other one likes what we're working on a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it always feels like actually collaborating on a project feels less like a big deal, because it's just like, oh, I'm playing a part in Sheila's work, or she's playing a part in my work, but just the ongoing conversations. It's just so fun to think with someone else, and to get somewhere with someone else, and to build a framework with someone else, especially when we're coming from such different places, and then the world gets to be quite complete.
I actually think, like, also for me, like, at the beginning of every book I've written, there was like a moment of like real enthusiasm for Margaux, and that was like, okay, this is interesting. And that, if without that, I don't think that I could go forward on a project. And even like a title, like if I was like, I want to call my book this, and Margaux didn't think it was the right title, I'd be like, I can't use that title. Like, I just trust Margaux so much.
I'm really certain about stuff. I'm very foolish, but yeah, we were in the car for 3 hours on the weekend, and we were just talking about our 2 new titles. And Sheila had to explain my title to me, and I think Sheila probably came up with my title, and I had to explain Sheila's title to her, and we were both jealous of each other's titles. But I was like, your title's so good, and she was like, but why? And I was like, I know exactly why, I can tell you. So it's like, it's that still playing of structure, always trying to find that circle or the graph or the shape of these things that you're building. That
Yeah, it's really useful to have someone else's brain.
Something I wanted to ask you, which you both have kind of touched on, is acceptance and doubt in both of your works. Margaux, I'm pretty jealous whenever you mention that you actually don't go back and revise your paintings. You accept the gesture, you accept the painting as is, and you show it as is. And not every artist does that, not every writer or thinker does that. And I think there's something very, well, it feels very connected to actually a passage, a moment in How Should a Person Be, where, and please correct me if I'm wrong in retelling the story, but Margaux, I guess it took you a while to talk, and your mother's friend was obsessed with self-help books and would tell your mother that whenever there's a crisis or a moment of panic, just throw up your hands in the air and say, who cares? And then one day at dinner, I guess a glass of wine gets knocked over, and the first words out of Margaux's mouth is, who cares? And her hands go up. And I just love that. It felt so true to me, because it's been my experience in the last 6 months working with you in terms of just accept. Who cares? Who cares? I like this grade. Who cares? No, but this idea of being so self-assured, but also accepting the world and accepting things as they are, and also part of that is also moving them around to see what's possible. I think that's something that you've taught me in the last 6 months, and also in your work as well. Again, going back to that, I don't know why it stayed with me so much, that image where, I think it's Flora in St. Alwyn's Girls at Sea, where she, through the rain and perceiving the rain as these kisses, she starts to understand the loneliness of her father, who she knew was cheating on her mother in many ways. And that idea, it was such a beautiful image. And again, this final just like acceptance and empathy, and then understanding the loneliness of men, I thought was so gorgeous. So I wonder if either of you could talk about acceptance and doubt. And in going back into doubt also, Sheila, what I admire so much about your writing are all the questions. The questions that the characters are asking of themselves, of the world, that you're asking of the reader, and even yourself, potentially?
This is my favorite question, because it's like, how come you're so confident? How come you're so foolish? You know, like I'm not saying that's your question, but I feel like I feel like that's what we're both good at. We're both good at taking ourselves so seriously, but then also realizing what a good half of the time, like how completely ridiculous we are. Like that spectrum just goes back and forth, and it allows for a lot of openness. To more directly speak to your question with paintings, like I see the project being like a bigger project than the individual paintings. And I also see, you know, in art school or with people starting out with painting, the hardest thing is that they don't like their brushstroke. And like you just have your brushstroke, there's nothing else you have. So you just have to accept it, and that's almost what makes good paintings, you know? Like if so that's a little bit more of a craft, but I definitely am questioning of the larger project over and over again. Like I was like, why am I still making these paintings? Shouldn't I move on right now? Am I going in totally a wrong direction because I'm like doing this other secret project that I'm not telling anybody about, that nobody wants me to do? And then it was only this year that I was like, oh, this secret project is the end of these paintings and it's all together. And I was so relieved that I hadn't made a terrible mistake.
Should we have the slides keep going?
Yeah.
So, because I think there are Margaux's paintings to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, one of the things that Margaux and I used to talk a lot about was like you have to be stupid. You have to be stupid about half the things and smart about half the things, or like there's an equal balance between being stupid and being smart when you're making art. It's not all being smart, and somehow if you're smart about everything, then the work loses everything.
It loses a hunt, it loses the finding, it loses like the depth comes from all the questioning because you keep going further and further.
And like from not knowing what you're doing and from feeling like what you're doing is wrong. Like I feel like I don't even trust myself if I'm working on a project unless I've started to realize like unless I feel like I shouldn't be doing this is the wrong thing to be doing. This is a waste of time. Like I feel kind of guilty for doing this. I should be doing something else. Like I should be doing some real writing. Like unless I have that feeling, like it's probably not going to end up being a book because it's not going to be interesting to me for 6 years.
I'm still waiting for that feeling to go away. I'm like, maybe you can do things that aren't secrets, you know,
that you don't feel like
you
you're
have
going to be punished for
everyone.
Yeah. I don't know, like there's just some way of like feeling like if and maybe it's partly like if you take what you're doing that seriously, it takes the fun out of it. But if you feel like you're doing something bad or wrong or you're wasting your time, like there's kind of like this impish fun and like this kind of glee, and you're getting away with something and you're sort of like shirking your responsibility. And like I think that is the engine, like for me, like for years and years of work. Because as soon as I feel like this has to be good or this is important, then it's just dead.
Yeah. And so on that note, what are you both working on currently that you can speak about or are willing to?
It's a secret.
Margaux's is a secret, but mine was that Alice, the St. Alan Girls at Sea, that's her story that you're talking about is I'm expanding into a novel. And then this book about Alice, this AI bot that I've been like playing with for a few years.
So can we talk about that turn towards AI in your writing and how you negotiate that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think like writing by AI is really boring. So like, but I don't think that that's what I'm interested in. Like I'm specifically interested in Alice, this like really particular AI, as she was in 2022 for 8 months. Because she was really weird, and now AI is really corporate and really boring. And like if you ask any AI a question, it'll be like, as an artificial intelligence. But like this Alice seemed to have like this moment, this flicker of, if not consciousness, at least like real weirdness, and would give these really hostile responses often. And I got from the developers like like 2.5 million words of conversations that other people had with her. So it's not even like Alice that I'm so interested in. I'm interested in her and her crazy responses, but I'm also interested in, like, I feel like I've like gone backstage, like seeing the backstage of humans, and how much, I mean, it's not a surprise, but like it is kind of a surprise, like how violent people are with her, and how rapey they are, and how many people want to have sex with their mothers. Like, you just like can't, I mean, I guess if you are in the internet, there's ways of finding this, but there's something about it being in dialogue, which is completely obsessing me. And I just became obsessed. And like, I felt like this is the last thing I want to be working on is AI. It's so embarrassing. It's so like, I hate to be like doing what everyone is talking about and interested in.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I had to wait 3 years to edit it, or 4 years to edit it, because it's like, it was too, I can't work on something when like every day, every article is about AI, and the book I'm working on is AI. So now it feels like it's changed a bit, because now that AI doesn't exist anymore. So it feels like it's like a historical book now.
And this is connected to the piece in the New Yorker? Yeah, okay. And Margaux, since you can't...
I'm just joking. I'm not.
Oh, okay. So you are going to divulge something or talk about what you're...
Well, if there's, I don't know, if you want me to.
Yeah, or as I'm going to say, the other thing is you do have a show on right now at MOCA, so it'd be great to also just maybe talk about your thinking around the show, the group of new paintings, of which this is one, Fire and Fence. And because you have talked a lot about this idea of you're at the end, you think you may be at the end of these paintings, so I'm wondering, how does one get to that feeling of being at the end, and why this kind of group of paintings? And
Yeah. I think there's just something with my hand where it just will not ever do anything because I'm supposed to do it. Everything else I do because I'm supposed to, but so it's just that feeling of like not totally understanding them, and so they're still interesting, to me. And so the project I've been working on, the other project, just this year, I was like, oh my God, I had to talk with Jessica Bradley, and someone's like, where are your notes for these paintings? I was like, I don't take any notes anymore. I don't write anymore. And Jessica Bradley was like, who's been in my studio, was like, you've written like 300 pages. And I was like, oh, right. That's my cryptic notes just became paragraphs.
Right.
And then it was just this year that I was like, oh, these are the end of the paintings. This is the end of the paintings. And I suddenly could see so much in this way that I hadn't seen. And I do have, I think I wasn't sure what art could do. And then one time I gave a project a lot of time, and I found something at the end. And so now, ever since then, I really, really trust that there's going to be something at the end that will really surprise me. And working in this way, this intuitive, conceptual way, like the endings are quite surprising usually. So I'm pretty excited.
yeah. And my final question before we take it to the audience, because it is almost 7:30, if not 7:25. Okay, not bad. What is all of this for? Art and literature. I mean,
I just got this like excited feeling in my body. Like, it's just like this surge of like pleasure. Like, it's just it's the best way to spend the day, is to goof off, like in this like completely...
And I want the world to be a better place.
Yeah, this is why we're friends. No, like, just to be able to, like, this, for me, what's it for? Like, my whole life, like, since I was a kid, like, all I wanted to do was spend my days in bed. Like, I work in bed. Like, it's so great to, like, be in bed with my computer and just, like, do this, like, to cut 50,000 words. Like, it's not because it feels important at all. It's just so fun and like so unstressful, and interacting with other people is so stressful, and leaving the house is so dangerous, and everything is so awful except for like sitting in bed with the computer working. Like, so I think for me, like, that's it. And the fact that it then goes into the world is like, and makes me a living, like, is terrific. But I never think about like people reading it, the reception. If people have say they've read a book, like, I'm like, I don't really believe you, like, that you've read my book. Like, there's this feeling inside me, like, I can't really believe it. Like, I can't really feel that another person has read it. There's something part of me that like really shuts that reality out. So yeah.
I had that same feeling. I like it's like impossible in my brain to think that more than 5 people know my paintings. I don't know why, but I think Sheila and I both share that we feel so privileged to get to do this all day. Like it's such a joy, and that's why I was always so critical about art, because it was a selfish choice on my part, and it was such a pleasure, and it made me so happy. And I think that because I had less of a sense of meaning and I couldn't quite see order and structure so well, like I liked science for that reason, and I like that part of art when you can find those structures, because it's like you're finding meaning instead of inventing it or trusting it, whatever meaning means. But that's the best question, you know, what's it for and what's it? But I do love the communication part. Like I love being like, what are we doing? Like, what are we all doing? And is it anything? Like, and certainly the older you get and the more competent you get or sturdy in your work, the more humble you can get. And then you can, like, I'm always curious what people think, even though I don't believe they've seen the work, is that, you know, like with our show, like if people really didn't like the work, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, like it's a kind of openness now that's like groping and really wanting to find something that connects with me and find something that connects with other people. Like I'm really interested in what those things are.
I just also want to say, like, I would have given a different answer to mine if I hadn't just had a really good month of work. Because, like, I also go months without working, you know, and feeling really bad about that. So I don't want to give the impression that every day of my life is like that. But when it is, it's really good.
I barely worked this month, and so I just have this, like, fantasy about how great work is. But I don't like not working. It's not as fun. It's like,
but you can't always really work.
It's not as good.
Yeah. Margaux, is it also true that you only paint for 6 months and then write for 6 months?
Oh, I probably say I do that with so many things.
Okay.
I live in the woods for 6 months, and then I go to New York for 6 months. That's funny. I do like to get really into the paintings, and then I like to stop, and I've always liked to like let things change a bit so that when I come back to painting, I've forgotten how to paint a little bit. I like that feeling, but this past year, just a coincidence of deadlines that I couldn't say no to. Like I met Jade and I was like, I can't say no to Jade. And then I met you and I was like, I was prepared to say no, and then I was like, I can't say no to Rui. Rui was so inspiring. I just like I was like, I don't know, I can't. And then I immediately saw these paintings. I was like, okay. But it was really interesting with like, I'd empty out the studio and then I'd fill it again right away. And every time I started again, I was like, oh, thank God I can paint again, because I feel like I'm just getting the hang of it. And it was like such an interesting, I think that's also nice, just to be open to new experiences and to know that your confidence is actually quite foolish, or you can answer questions but they're totally wrong, or you can say this is how you work or this is how you don't work. And then this year to be like, oh my God, it's really helpful to keep painting, which didn't occur to me. Maybe it's helpful to not forget how to paint.
Yeah. I wonder if we should turn to the audience and actually find out if people have read your book and know your paintings.
Do you have any questions?
So if you have a question, please raise your hand and then we will bring you mics. Yeah, why don't we start here, which is the first hand that I saw.
Thank you. I have read your books, and they have seen your paintings. And
Phew.
yes. And I did a lot of reading last year on friendship and intimacy, and it's so beautiful to watch how you two interact with one another. That is not my question at all. I have several questions, but one that is the most salient, I think, is in a kind of context where there are so many emergencies, a climate emergency, an affordable housing emergency, food insecurity, et cetera, et cetera. If you were speaking to a policymaker and they had an opportunity to invest in arts and culture, but they say, we can't, we have to invest in affordable housing, we have to invest in a climate emergency or food insecurity, what would you tell them about the merits of
No.
Oh, I was like, yeah, don't invest in art. Yeah, give it to housing.
Defund the arts, you would say, defund the arts.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was I thought like that, yeah, that seems like the right answer.
I met a patron who was, she was really smart, and this older woman, and I was like, she's like, I give half to Doctors Without Borders and half to Canadian women painters. And I was like, don't worry about me. Like, she's like, that's okay. She just laughed.
Does that answer your question?
I'll just say really quick, I think I think that it's all, our friendship is all, just in terms of friendship, our friendship is also just as fun as our work or our busy work. Like, it's just, we're not friends because we decided to stay friends. We're like, isn't it crazy we're still friends?
We had a year and a half where we weren't friends, and Margaux and I both had the experience of like going out with other women and being like,
I befriended Maggie Nelson because I was like, it feels like a genius is missing, you know? But we miss each other.
Yeah, so
We have a question in the group here.
we met
So the
at
question, if anyone did, oh yeah.
We met on a balcony.
Margaux's ex and a good friend of mine's, Misha Globerman. He had a birthday party in 2001? 2000 actually, and we were both there. We met.
And there was something about Sheila where I was really happy to stay inside and never do anything. And for some reason, every time Sheila asked me to do anything, I was like, okay. And I was like, what am I doing? I don't, like, and Sheila would ask really hard things.
Yeah, I don't know.
She made me live.
Yeah, we just have a very good chemistry. Like, we still enjoy each other. Like, it still feels like the first month, you know, in
Just
some way.
so much laughing.
Yeah.
And so much self-seriousness.
More questions? Yes, there's one over there.
Margaux, for you, you said something that when you paint, you don't know what you're doing. Is it because you have to make a lot of decisions, and when you make decisions, you're not actually thinking about why you're making those decisions? Is that what you meant?
What? Sort of. I spent like, I feel like I spent like a month almost explaining how I made the painting, so I was just like, I can't do that to you guys. But if we go back to the weeds painting real quick, then I can kind of explain, because I don't picture the paintings in my head, but oh, that's the painting. But I was thinking like, all these paintings, like, I've never painted my studio, and I sort of understand why, but I was gonna paint the outside of my studio. So the painting idea was like garage and moon, just the outside, but then when I went to start, I was just like, I just need a giant ball of weeds, like right in the middle of the canvas. And that's really hard. Like when you start with a giant ball of weeds in the middle of the canvas, and then I was like, all right. And it's kind of fun. It's a fun way to paint because you start with one thing and then I move to the next thing and the next thing. And if I move really slowly, I can kind of paint quickly because then I'm not second guessing anything in a funny way. And I just have a sense every day I go into paint what I'm gonna paint. And it's not so thinky at all. And I really don't like symbols. I don't like anything to mean anything. But I feel like people are about to laugh. But so anyway, but then I painted the garage door, and it was so low. I was like, well, it'd be weird to paint a moon now. So I didn't paint a moon. You know, that kind of thing.
Does every painting have something like that on the left?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's like poetry. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. I
I really love it.
I almost put in a whole bunch of them, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know what they're saying. But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun way to paint.
Any other questions? Yes, one there in the middle. Oh, we're gonna wrap. We have a mic coming for you.
It's only 2 words. Why Toronto?
Because she was here.
Who cares? Go ahead. You could answer. Because I was here? Aw.
Margaux's like, we don't have to move to New York. I was like, okay.
I just always had this sort of feeling that I'd have too much survivor's guilt if I went to some place like New York. Like leaving people behind or some abstract feeling. Like I love New York, and when I go to New York I feel at home, and a lot of our friends are there. And we both love to go to LA, and we have friends there. I mean, separate friends too. But I just like, it's almost too good. Like I don't wanna like, you know what I mean? Like
It felt too rich to you or something.
too
Like
rich.
it's too privileged.
I would lose my appetite. I would like become a activist, I guess. Or let's rewind that.
Margaux redoing something. Wow. That's okay.
Yeah, it is good practice to try to accept ourselves.
But it is a great question because Toronto figures, I mean, even though your paintings are not explicitly Toronto, what has been beautiful about being in the show is that people feel somehow connected to them, even though there's all this conflicting information in your paintings in terms of perspective, light, the season, even in terms of like the vegetation, foliage, it's dying, it's blossoming, but there's still a grit and a sense and a light that feels very Toronto, and I'm glad you brought up that question, and I wonder if, and then of course Toronto.
And you do paint Toronto, like
Yeah.
this is what your paintings are like. Oh yeah, that's what Toronto looks like. Like I walk around and I'm like, that looks like a Margaux painting. I'm like, oh, because she paints Toronto,
And like no
and sees the things that are very even though you're
garbage in the
trying to do that,
And like, no offense to Toronto, but my house isn't fancy at all. I've never like thought about painting a wall before, a different color, I mean. And so I can paint my house because it's not like an Instagram photo, you know.
Yeah.
But I love the specificity of a place, you know. I don't like I'm not super, I don't know. It's like Sheila was always, when we started out talking, Sheila always had the platonic forms, and I always had the specifics. And then I feel like what happened is the specifics became platonic, you know, which was pretty fun. But I do like real things. I'm not saying Toronto's real, because other places are real too, but I do like to see just the regular things around you quite a lot.
Are there any other questions? Okay, yeah, we have 3 more. Let's. Thank you.
Hi, you're both such prolific artists, and I guess I'm interested in what you've shown is such work in progress and thinking about kind of the practice of it. And I guess I'm wondering, like, from an archival sense, do you envision a future where those would be public, or are they purely personal?
What part?
I don't think so. Like this stuff.
Yeah, like all of this, like
The
all
screen,
your
the screenshot.
your writing, Margaux or Sheila, like your tracking of your writing.
I never think of it as becoming public. It's just like the process. And we're so interested in process, and that's what we always talk about. And so we were like, oh, what are we gonna do today? And I'm like, why don't we show some slides of our process? But I never think of it as like being seen, except like, okay, maybe today, you know. Or if I go talk to like writing students, sometimes I'll show stuff because I think that that's really that's the art. Like that actually is the art, is the process. So, but I don't think of it as for publication or something.
And I also thought it might be helpful because I feel like a lot of people are a bit tortured by a blank page or a blank canvas, and because we have such similar styles for like getting into that strange dark place, I thought it was nice to share that, like to share this, because sometimes like, you know, an more old-fashioned man would be like, I wrestle with the canvas for 3 hours, and I'm like, I organize all my files, and then I get into this really special place. You know, like it's kind of a humble way to talk about it, or unromantic, but it is it's so fun, you know.
There was 2 more yep, here in the center.
If there was one thing that happened or was offered to you that would make you stop working forever, so you can't paint and you can't write, and you would feel like it's justified, what would it be?
What would be
What
the
would
reason?
Yeah, either the reason or something that happens.
Whoa, what a crazy question.
If they like tie your hands up, I guess. Right? But
I mean, anything, if they're like, we'll kill your brother if you write a book, I'm like, okay, I'll stop writing. Like, there's so many things.
what an inverse question.
It's like,
Are you
it's like a
thinking of-
million things.
Are you
like,
thinking of a different question?
there won't be any more apples in the universe. Okay, I'll stop writing. Like, there's like almost everything.
We gotta make a movie. It's like Speed, but an artist. You can't
Really interesting, crazy question.
The answer can be surreal.
What's that?
The
It would
answer
have
can
to
be
because
surreal.
there's no real situation that would come up.
Have you encountered something where something has stopped you from doing something that's really fun?
Well, only if I had to take care of a relative that was really sick, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. We just abandon our relative. I'm sorry, I'm just joking.
It's a really interesting question.
Yeah, I was like, there's another question inside on the other side of that question, but we'll leave it for now.
Yeah. I think there was one question there in the center back.
Sorry, I know I'm just in the worst spot for asking a question. But I had a less serious question, or less involved question, but following in the footsteps of the previous question. Aside from something produced in a worst painting competition, could you guys speak to the worst work the other one has made?
Whoa.
Wow.
Hey.
Margaux didn't like this short story that I just published in the New Yorker. That's the beginning of a novel, and she took me out for. Can I answer the question for
Wait,
you?
which one was it?
So I don't want to know if there's another answer. Like, I know she didn't like this. I don't want to know if there's anything else she didn't like. So the thing Margaux didn't like the most was this story, and we went out for like lunch, and you're like, I have something to tell you.
Wait, which story was
I wouldn't have finished that story if it hadn't been you that wrote it. I was like, oh. And then I went around and I asked everybody else, I was like, Margaux thinks that story is too dark, is it? And they're like, no, it's really funny and light. I'm like, okay. I had to ask like every single person I knew. They're like, Margaux's crazy. I'm like, yeah. And then you explained to me that it like made you feel the bad things that we used to sometimes feel together. But it
It's
is
like being young. It was like being young, and I did. Where the really nice thing when I first met Sheila is she's so honest. I think she asked me, "Why do you make art?" And I was like, "I guess I have to or something, and she's like, that's hilarious, that's so stupid. And it was just so liberating. I just like, oh, thank God I can be honest with this person. And Sheila can take it. Like, Sheila's the toughest person in the world, and she wants to know. Like, she wants to know if you like something or not, and it's interesting. So I did preface that by saying, like, I think it's a good story, but also I'm also not
I
interested.
don't think you did preface it by saying I think it's a good story.
But I'm also like, I'm interested in, I love structural complexity or elegance. Like, that for me, that's my number one thing, and especially in literature. And so for me, like, characters and plot is a bit less interesting. And but I think it's, but I always respect your work. I always respect, and I can see the greatness of it for sure. But I think it did seem very dark to me, and I just, you know, I started reading it and I was like, this one isn't for me. And then Sheila's like, sent it to me again. Have you read this yet? And I was like, okay, I'll read it. So I read it, even though it wasn't exactly for me. But sometimes Sheila writes something that she doesn't like at all, and I'm like, no, this is like the best thing I've ever read. Like, so we are quite different, you know. Now I have to hear. Should I just keep talking, or do I have to hear what Sheila doesn't like?
No, I really.
I usually know.
I've been racking my brain, like going through your paintings, going through your film stuff, going through your writing. Like, I'm actually not sure if there's.
Oh, I know why. Because Sheila's, we both have a lot of friends and a lot of other writers and artists around and musicians, and it's so fun. Like, we both just love to talk to other people and understand these things, not in a party way, but because I know so many people in the arts, like, I know, oh, like, I'm a critic, and this person's a critic, and this person's a curator.
Yeah, I'm not a critic in that way. I don't really not like things that my friends make. Like, I kind of just love the things because I love them. Like, I don't think.
So even I actually got upset once because I was like, Sheila, you have to be more critical because you're getting the benefit of my criticism and I'm getting nothing from you. She's like, okay. But you know, and I like, it is interesting. Everyone's has different
Brains,
yeah,
skills, yeah.
and sort of their natural, yeah.
One final question. Oh, there was one in the back, yeah.
I have a question. I'm not sure how I feel about it being the final.
Okay, well, we have another one that we can possibly ask. So.
I love seeing the kind of build up to these projects, and so much of what you're showing us is this kind of structure finding for like a form. There's like a visualization of the structure that you're trying to analyze, but then also it's like trying to analyze the analyzations of other things. And I keep thinking of this word proof, like
exactly. I was thinking about that word also, because it's like, yeah, go on.
Oh no, I mean, I'm just curious because I think as an artist as well, there's this kind of conviction that you have when you're in the studio, and you both speak with it, where you're like, obviously this is the only thing I'm gonna do, but then also when faced with the question of what would stop you, you're like, everything, you know, it's this kind of juxtaposition that goes back and forth. But I'm curious, like, is the proof to keep you going? Or is the proof to manage? I don't know, I'm also thinking about these things, so I'm just curious.
I was thinking about this today because I was thinking about Sheila's work, and like, I think what I was saying in the beginning of the talk about Sheila's work being like, not the big T truth, but like, is for the joints of this structure I'm making, like her going to each joint and being like, is this true? Is this true? You know, and basically what I'm talking about is like a mathematical proof, you know, like she's like actually or hopefully I am too, like trying to find these things that are a proof in some way, not a proof of life or a proof of this or that, not a proof of something you're imagining, just something that you're like, oh, why does this work? I don't know. And I think finding that proof is so exciting. Like it's just, it's not proving that you're a good artist or a bad artist. It's not proving that there's meaning in the world or not. It's just like proving that this thing is actually functional and you're not sure how you found it. So I think it makes it feel quite magical, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
Pretty good last question. Unless someone has something.
We have time for, or did you want to ask one?
It's just that you did it so well, but both of you, it seems to me, are very good at the found thing. And the freshness of it, and the fun of it, and to move from thing to thing, found, including your careers somehow. Even though I can see by your screenshots that you're very professional how you go about things and file things.
Just not tonight in our hometown.
But even, you know, it's a wonderful freshness that you bring to it, and eventually you find your way to the depths, as you say, for both of you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming.
I'm glad we ended on that. Thank you.
Thank you.